and welcome back to my channel. I'm filming in the kitchen again today because I feel that it's easier for me to erect my camera in here. I hope that's okay, and I'm sorry if any of you, obviously I know that it can be a little bit difficult sometimes to deal with change, so I hope that's okay for you and that you can get used to it. But yeah, so I'm filming in the kitchen today. Anyhow, so I'm doing two videos. The first video, I'm going to be answering two questions from you, the viewers. I'm going to be answering your questions, any questions you ask on a weekly basis. Obviously, I won't be able to answer all of your questions today, so I've just selected two. One from two of you, and the others, and so if your question isn't answered today, don't worry, because I'll answer it in another video. So one of you wanted to know if I've ever played a musical instrument. So that's the first question I'm going to answer today. Have I ever played a musical instrument? And the answer is yes, I have done, as a child. I had piano lessons from the age of about 8 years old because at the house I grew up in as a child, the house came with a piano. And then when we moved house when I was about 7 years old, my parents kind of thought that it would be good to still have a piano because they'd got used to having a piano in the house. So they went and got a brand new piano, and then obviously they needed someone to play the piano. So they then got my brother and I to take piano lessons, and they found a good piano teacher. And so yeah, so I had piano lessons from the age of 8. When I first started going to piano lessons, I enjoyed it, and I did do quite well, and I picked up the piano pretty easily, I would say. But I never did it to grade level or anything like that. My brother did. My brother is the pianist in the house, and he's done, I think, pretty much all of the grades, and he's a good pianist. But I never took it to grade level, because what happened was, when I got to about the age of about 10, I kind of became a bit rebellious, and I kind of resented this kind of imposition that my parents had put on me to attend piano lessons. And I kind of, I misbehaved rather a bit at the, quite a lot at the piano teacher's house. I kind of I didn't always do what she wanted me to do. I kind of switched off. She ended up telling me off a fair number of times. I kind of was just very restless and just wasn't really a very willing pupil. So eventually my parents decided to take me out of piano lessons. Later on, when I was a teenager, I decided out of my own volition to take piano lessons again, because I think because I saw my brother doing well at the piano, and I thought, I wish I would like to do it again. I maybe a good decision I made as a child not to cooperate and not to do this piano was a wrong decision, so I decided to do it again. But because there was quite a number of years that had taken place between playing the piano and not playing the piano, and I had to pick it up all over again, and I had to go back to basics. And also because I was having to revise for my exams at the time, there's a lot of stress, I was sitting my GCSEs and then A-levels and things like that. I didn't have enough time to practice to do all the work I was supposed to do with the piano, so I didn't really progress at the rate kind of that I could have done or should have done. So eventually I just decided to quit altogether. Part of me wishes that maybe I had carried on with the piano because, like, people who are good pianists I admire, and I think, if only I'd kind of put the work in and kind of done more as a child, maybe I could have got that good. But who knows, maybe I wouldn't have done anyway, because you have to have the will to do it. But yeah, so the question, did I play a musical instrument, is yes, I did. And at the time when I was a child, I did enjoy playing the piano, and I could play Christmas songs on the piano. I could play all sorts of different melodies on the piano, classical songs. When I became really obsessed with Kate Winslet, for a short time I learned how to play Celine Dion's My Heart Will Go On, so I could play that on the piano for a while. So that's to answer that question. The other question from another viewer is, do I struggle to communicate? Now, obviously, as an autistic person, the answer to that is obviously yes, I do struggle to communicate. It's kind of part of being autistic that you're going to have some problems in that area. But communication is, of course, it's not just one thing. Noise. There's a random banging noise that just came out of nowhere, and it's really stressful. I'm going to put my fingers in my ears because I find it really hard to concentrate, so that's right. Yeah, so what I was saying is that communication, it is a sort of multifaceted thing. Communication isn't just one entity. It's made up of many different sorry, I'm really distracted. I hope this makes sense. But it's made up of many different strands. So, for example, when I'm talking about, say, my special interest, or I'm talking about something I'm really interested in, like, for example, when I'm doing my videos, when I'm talking to you guys on the camera, like, you might think, oh, I'm communicating pretty well, I'm articulate, I'm verbalising things, I hope, relatively coherently. So yeah, when I'm talking about things that interest me, and when I know what I'm saying, and when it's kind of planned out, I can communicate pretty well. And my written communication is good. I'm good at generally writing stuff down. Like I keep a blog, awesome individual at WordPress.com that some of you might have visited. So on that level of communication, I can communicate well. And but like I say, communication isn't made up of one aspect. It's multifaceted. Where I struggle on a communication level is in the sort of non-verbal areas, the parts of communication which don't have a clearly defined script, where the parameters are more kind of all over the place, where things aren't as, how can I put it, well defined. So, for example, when I'm with my support worker, I saw my support worker earlier today, I would say that with her, I can communicate pretty well, and that's because I know my support worker. I see her at a clear time. It's very structured. I know exactly what the rules are, where the boundaries start and end. It's all very clear. It's kind of, in that sense, quite an artificial relationship. It's a professional relationship, and because a lot of the stress is taken out of the interaction, because a lot of the stress has been removed, it's therefore easier for me to communicate because I'm under less stress. And although obviously when I'm with my support worker there's a certain level of reciprocity, and I do try as much as possible to how can I put it, to follow what I've learned to be acceptable social conduct as far as I can. Sorry, I'm finding it really hard to articulate this today. I'm really, really distracted because of noise and stuff, so I'm hoping this makes sense. But what I'm trying to say is that when I'm with my support worker, it's the situation is a lot more formalised. It's a lot clearer. So that removes a lot of stress and means that I'm better able to communicate. But where I really struggle to communicate, as I say, is in the non-verbal areas. And this means that I find it really hard to make friends with people and to maintain friendships, because I find it really hard to communicate my feelings. That's a whole other area altogether. I'm not very good at communicating that kind of thing. Whatever feelings are, I've got no idea. And this is the other thing, I can only really know my own reality. I know that I'm missing out on things. I know that I'm not part of this social world that we live in. I know that, but it's really quite hard to kind of pin it down. But like I say, I do really struggle to make and maintain friendships, and that obviously is a communication issue, and a lot of that comes down to non-verbal stuff, because I'm not good at reading hints. I can't read other people's facial expressions. I'm not good at understanding all those kind of hidden nuances, that kind of very invisible threads, all that non-verbal stuff. That, I think, is where I really struggle communication. So, as I say, verbally, communication on the pure verbal level, it might appear that I'm very good at, because I can speak, I can talk, I can articulate myself, I can use long words. When I'm talking about my interests, I can talk very well. When I'm in structured environments, such as when I'm with my support worker, my communication issues, if you like, can be camouflaged, because I'm not in an environment where the weaknesses are going to become apparent. The weaknesses become apparent in those more unstructured, particularly group environments, where the roles are not clearly defined and where there's small talk that goes on. And I think when I'm with my support worker, there's not quite so much reciprocity anyway, because if you think about it, my support worker is paid to support me, so I'm always going to take the lead. So, I don't have to focus so much on all those non-verbal stuff, because it's kind of scaffolded anyway, because she's there to accommodate me. So I'm for one who's taking the lead. So if maybe I talk a bit too much about my special interest or do most of the talking, it doesn't matter, because she's not there. It's not like a friendship situation. I'm for one who's in control. So that obviously removes some of that. Whereas when I'm, say, in an environment not in a support worker type relationship, where it's more, say, small talk involved, and where there aren't clear parameters, and where, the person there isn't there to support me, and where there's lots of other things going on, and everything's confusing, because I don't know when is this interaction supposed to start, and when is this interaction supposed to stop, that's where my communication challenges become more apparent. The other thing I have to say is that even when I'm in a structured environment, even when I'm with my support worker, I still find communicating difficult. It might appear that that's not the case, in the sense that, someone seeing me might think, oh, look, she's talking a lot, what's the problem? But deep down, inside, there's a lot of tension going on, because I'm always having to work out what to say, how to say it. It doesn't feel natural. This uses up energy. But because I'm with my support worker in a very controlled, structured environment, it's bearable and doable. And precisely because of that structure, that removes some of the stress that would otherwise be there. But as soon as that structure has been removed, and I'm in that more unstructured environment that relies more heavily on non-verbal stuff, that's when it becomes a hell of a lot more difficult, and this really does use up a lot of my energy, and I really do struggle. And I think that's part of the reason why I don't have that much motivation for friendships. I really have to be in the right frame of mind to see someone, because it's so tiring, and quite simply put, there are better things I could be doing. I mean, social it's not come first on my list of priorities, precisely because it is so difficult and tiring, and precisely because it's not the thing that comes most naturally to me. If I can control the social situation like I can in my support worker, then, as I say, it removes a lot of the stress. So then I can communicate to the best of my ability. But as soon as you remove that control, it becomes a lot harder. So as I say, I hope it's given you a little bit of insight into my communication challenges, but it's very difficult, I think, sometimes to articulate. I think because most of it is non-verbal, that's where I struggle. And not for non-verbal, precisely because I struggle in the non-verbal, it's really hard for me to actually articulate what exactly it is I struggle with, if that makes sense. I know I struggle non-verbally, but because I don't know exactly what it is I'm missing out on, because I've never experienced it, it's quite hard for me to say what's going on here. All I know is that I really struggle to make and maintain friendships, and that I find social really very tiring, and that it's not at the top of my list of priorities, precisely because it is tiring, and precisely because it's not something I can get really deep into. I like deep stuff. The problem with social is that it's not deep, it's unpredictable. You don't quite know where it's heading. And as much as I like finding out facts about people, I can get those facts just as well from a book. So ultimately I prefer a book to getting most of my information from than spending lots of time with people. So that's the reality of the situation. But yes, also, of course, communication, people can sometimes say things that don't always make sense, they can go too fast, it can be hard for me to keep up. At least with a book you can slow down, you can reread things over again. With people you can't do that, you don't have a subtitle caption, I wish, they go way too fast. Sometimes, there's a lot of information, and particularly when you're doing other things that can be really difficult and tiring to kind of manage. Aside from the fact, so the things people say that can be quite confusing sometimes. So that's another area where sometimes I can be out of my depth. But as I say, and these days, it's hard as well sometimes to know that. I think also because now I'm outside of a school setting, obviously I can control my environments a lot more than I could when I was at school. When I was at school, I was kind of in a setting where I couldn't avoid being around lots of people, and that obviously meant my communication challenges were more evident, simply because I was spending my time more around people. These days, I don't see people that often. I only see people in environments that I've chosen, mainly structured environments. So because of that, I'm not confronted so much with my difficulties. But as I say, when I was at school, I really struggled to make friends. I still do struggle to make friends, but this was more apparent when I was at school, because I literally did not know how to keep a conversation going. I didn't know what to say. These days, I've learnt better how to keep a conversation going, just through sheer practice and watching people. So now, in structured environments, when I'm with my support worker, you know, an observer might see me, you know, carrying on a conversation, and it looks, you know, my autism isn't immediately apparent, but it's all too apparent for me, because it's really, really hard still. Although I've learned these skills, I've had to learn them mechanically, and it still takes a lot of effort to try and work out what to say, and that's constantly going on all the time inside. So, you know, that never goes, and I can only do it for, as I say, short amounts of time in structured environments. When it's not structured, and when there aren't clear parameters, that's when it can get quite difficult for me. But anyway, I could go on and on about this, and I hope anyway I've given you some insight as to the areas of communication that I do best in, talking about my interests, structured environments and writing, where, you know, where I can actually communicate verbally. I can communicate pretty well, but as I say, it's the non-verbal aspects, and I hope I've given you some insight as to where I struggle. But anyway, moving on now to video number 2, where I'm going to be doing a quick book review of a book that I've been reading recently, so thank you for watching.